Light on Lagos Television. Welcome to Open Access, that segment where you viewers also have the opportunity to interact with us in the studio. Of course, to interact with us will be either via SMS or WhatsApp. We cannot take phone calls, but we'll respond to your messages if we do get any in the course of the program. Of course, this morning we are taking a look at another initiative that many, of course, are looking at how it will work, especially in Nigeria. That is the compressed natural gas, the CNG initiative, where, of course, a lot of people are looking at diversifying away from petrol, especially at the moment when everybody is still grappling with the effect of the removal of fuel subsidy. Now there are lesser cars on the roads, and perhaps that is one of the gains of this the subsidy removal. But again, how can we begin to look at ways by which we can look at other means of powering our vehicles or powering our buses, and then find a lasting solution to the dependence on oil? Of course, we do have a guest in the studio this morning, and together we will be taking a look at this, and of course he would help us also see other ways by which this initiative can be made to succeed. Joining us in the studio this morning, he's a friend of the house. Many times we've seen him, we know that, okay, he's here again. Of course, we have the Executive Director, Center for Sustainable Mobility and Access Development, CENMAD, Dr. Kayode Opeifa. Thank you, Dr. Opeifa, for being here
good morning.
This morning. Let's start this way. Of course, it's been about 3-4 months since the fuel subsidy removal has been done, and of course, Nigerians are gradually getting this into their system, and of course, wrapping their heads around the situation. But for you, has it been? What are some of the dynamics that you've seen Nigerians adapt to since that initiative happened?
Thank you. Good morning. First, before giving that experience, let me put it this way, that at the point of the removal of the fuel subsidy, which I call the pump price fuel subsidy removal, one thing happened. The energy sector, energy consumption and utilization sector got affected. And the area greatly impacted were the home energy use, for those who use petrol for home lighting and some other things, and then for the mobility sector. And immediately, those two sectors were affected. So many things spiraled: inflation, consumption pattern, and then out-of-pocket expenses. But it was something generally acceptable and accepted by Nigerians. So the next thing Nigerians did was to find an adoption and survival strategy.
Right.
And immediately also, at that point, the government itself did not shy away from the fact that it's taking a tough decision, and the government was clear that we cannot continue this way.
Right.
All of us have to sit back and take a second look at the way we do things. And for me, it's been not too rosy period for Nigerians, but
right.
at the same time, Nigerians have come to trust and have confidence in the government for taking that decision, which Nigerians believe is long overdue. And the government also, as at different levels, have also been reacting by doing several things to make sure that the impact does not become too much unbearable. So by and large, Nigerians have come to terms with that, and Nigerians, both people and government, are working in several ways to find a leverage so that life can go on and then survival can be assured.
The whole essence of the presidential compressed natural gas initiative is to bridge the energy gap occasioned by the fuel subsidy removal. However, some people are worried about the durability, the effectiveness and pragmatism of that initiative, that perhaps this is another flash in the pan government initiative just to perhaps assuage labor, not necessarily reaching those that will directly benefit from this initiative. What's your thought on this?
Okay, thank you. First, let's realize that the thought to remove fuel subsidy is not something that happened just as a flash. It's been on discussion, and several methods, several options as to how to assuage the impact had always been on the table. And one of those, like I said earlier, two areas of energy utilization are greatly impacted. So what the PCNG of the current government actually strikes to do, you can put it in 6 to 10 points. And the first one is a comprehensive, well-thought attempt to address the issue of the pump price
of petrol.
Petrol pump price subsidy removal. Number one. That's the second thing to do, which you try to, is to target the nationwide adoption of CNG fuel vehicles as the means for public transportation and for other transportation. Now, the third thing is for economic growth. The fourth is to create jobs, not just jobs, to create jobs that will impact wealth. That is wealth, really, jobs that create wealth through a value chain of entrepreneurial activities that will bring in young people, interested Nigerians, technical people who will take advantage of the CNG value chain. This is a gas we've not been using. Now we have it in abundance. We compress the gas. And don't also forget, just last week or 2 weeks ago, there were 42 or so companies that were licensed to handle the gas flaring and convert it into usable gas format. So what you have in this President CNG initiative is not just a standalone attempt. It's a comprehensive attempt in the immediate to long-term approach to address some of the impacts, if not most of the impacts, of the fuel subsidy removal. It is also to revolutionize the way public transport, mass transit, is being viewed in Nigeria. Don't forget that the plan has, as part of its component, the introduction of 11,500 vehicles at the same time, within a short period, boom. So the effect that we have is that it will change. There will be a impact. Then you also have about 55,000 conversion system. Now, that conversion 55,000 is going to involve some training, because it's not something that is already there. Then you are going to see the private sector involvement in this as well. So government is making an input to allow, to stimulate entrepreneurship, to stimulate public sector interest, to stimulate local assembly of another kind of vehicle. That's another industry entirely. So what you see now is to stimulate economic growth. Another thing that this system will do is to revolutionize the energy diversity and energy security. Now, we are used to using PMS. We are used to using diesel. Now, we are not going to start, attempt at one point we're using kerosene. Now, kerosene is no more there because of the cost.
It's still there.
No, I'm saying not as much as
not as much as it is.
Now you are not, but now we have increased the use of LPG, the gas, and the price has also gone down. So by the time you now bring the CNG, you are now bringing another product from that petroleum sector into the mix. So what we are doing is that you're also ensuring energy diversity, at the same time ensuring energy
clean environment
security.
as well.
So the consumption of PMS on the total will come down. Consumption of diesel in total will come down. Then you have those products for exports. Then by the time we start getting to the full point of our local production of PMS, when we start thinking we're using 60 million, and now it's about 40 million, that will also come down, because the huge consumption from the public transport. So you now have a diversification of our energy mix. That also will impact on entrepreneurship, will impact on new businesses. So it's not just the PCNG initiative on mass transit. It is a comprehensive system, and it has taken off without Nigeria noticing it has taken
because
off.
I was going to ask that all of these things you've talked about, is there a time frame into the phases of this initiative? If we're talking about the buses, and now that Labour is meeting with the minister today, is this also part of an initiative that Labour will be made to understand that it is ongoing? Because from the statement you made now that these things are ongoing and Nigerians do not have an idea of all of these things as they are happening. So are there timelines set at different phases of this initiative?
Okay, timeline is virtual to me, but the timeline is that I saw you from immediate to long term.
Right.
I won't put months, 3 months.
Right, but so you,
Those
of
are
course, you
virtual.
will group them and
But
to
the fact,
immediate,
okay, I will group
medium.
it. The immediate thing now, for example, you are looking at the federal system only. We have not looked at what is happening at the state. A state government, Borno also, introduced 70 mass transit buses just of recent. Lagos state government flagged up the commercial activity of the
Blue rail.
the
Light blue rail.
blue line.
Yes.
Lagos mass transit train system. The red line is in the pipeline. Lagos state government has reduced the price of public transport owned by government by 50%,
Yes.
25%. This thing is happening in many other states at the same time. So it has commenced. That's immediate, in the immediate terms. Now, on the other side, government had appointed preferred bidders for, or in fact, they've been given the license for conversion of the gas we are flaring into usable gas. That one has taken off. Now, government has set up a committee, and the committee is already working, ready for deployment. So all these things are already happening. But I see this before we get to the turn of the year. By the time we get to like December, we'll start seeing all these things already in full swing. Already, the amount of petrol PMS that we consume has also gone down. The amount of petrol that is smuggled, if not has disappeared, and also gone down. So then the state governments have been directed to introduce salary augmentation, not salary increase. Then the wage negotiation is also about to take place. So many things. Labour is already talking with government, but specifically about the PCNG initiative is to address in the frontal run is the public transport sector. When I say public transport, I didn't say only for the those who take mass transit or buses, but it also comes to me and you who prefers, if we chooses to use our own vehicle. So this initiative will bring jobs. This initiative will bring wealth. The value chain involved will bring skill acquisition. This skill acquisition through technology transfer from those that will be trained, and at the same time will translate into real economic growth that really affects the people, and is nationwide.
Sorry, Josh. I'm sorry. Let me just hold your thoughts there. A follow-up here will be: we've also seen a couple of pictures, videos, of course, from Nigerians who've had gas cylinders in the boot of their vehicles. And of course, there have been those mixed feelings, whether or not those are CNG cylinders or if they are LPG cylinders. And so people are wondering the safety of having a cylinder in the boot of a vehicle. And so are you able here to clarify what exactly that is all about?
Okay, whether it's CNG or LPG, you're going to have a cylinder.
Okay.
The kind of cylinders are different.
Okay.
Because of the nature of the compression, or either it's liquefied or whatever, or pressurized kind of gas. The ones Nigerians have adopted on their own. Can you imagine? Just merely government is planning to do this, government has done it. Nigerians, ingenious ones, have started converting their generators to LPG. Those ones are mainly LPGs.
Okay.
If you are somewhere around Edo, Benin, Delta, maybe it could be CNG because they have started a long time. I remember when I was a special advisor for transportation in Lagos, people came from Edo, NIPCO to be precise, and they introduced, and they were using it for their mass transit.
Okay.
And I know that in the whole country, they have the largest penetration. So be it LPG or CNG, it is safe because the cylinder are produced for that kind of impact.
Okay.
In fact, the CNG cylinder is even much more
it's bigger than
protected, and people should not be worried about on
whether
the
there
issue
will be
of
an impact.
Okay.
Okay.
And the way they set it, the way they cap it,
it ensures the safety.
You know, this is the petroleum sector. The safety is
very important. It's very important.
Okay. While talking about safety, another issue in that space is the international nature of the downstream sector. The pricing is international. It is not only a localized pricing that we have here. Talk about the fuel. Every time the crude goes up, it affects our own here. And even the fact that we even have refineries, even when we begin to produce, doesn't, according to the explanations, doesn't really change the pricing that much. And the same thing applies to LPG. Every time there is an international increase, it affects us here in Nigeria. And we're wondering, but we do have LPG in Nigeria, we produce. But they said not in the quantity, sometimes we have to import as well. CNG is here again, we're talking about CNG. Are we not having, how does that translate to the accessibility or affordability of it for average Nigerians? Because you talk about, it's already here with us, it is everywhere, we have the mix now. So does that translate to the amount
there
of
is no natural resource that does not have international pricing attached to it. The beauty of the gas is that we have it in abundance, in excess, and we are not using it. Two, the second beauty is that there is no, I don't want to use the word, there is no group that determines the amount you can produce or you may not produce, like OPEC. Is not affected by gas. So gas is also futuristic in sales. However, because we still have excess that we have not been able to even harness, so we are now harnessing that excess. We are now taking advantage. We already have the amount we need to send out. So we still have excess that we can use. It is that excess that we are revolutionizing its usage, either as LPG by pressurizing, or as CNG by compression. Whichever, it is that excess that we are taking. Yes, there are international prices. The other side of it is that we have it in abundance in such a manner that it comes cheaper.
Okay.
The truth of the matter is that it is cheaper than petrol.
It
is also cleaner. I didn't mention
that.
Yes,
clean,
it's also
cleaner.
cleaner.
Right.
Now, it also has a second value in the sense that as you start using it, the country and the companies and the organizations and the various institutions that are involved in its production, compression, utilization can now also seek for carbon credit. From those who pollute the atmosphere and they cannot change, they will now, so there is a lot of value chain involved and which we are yet to take advantage of.
Right.
And the comprehensive truth is that it is cheaper than petrol, it is more available than petrol, it will be cleaner, and it will be safer.
Right.
We
understand that also it has vehicles who run on CNG are also able to run on petrol. Is that at the same time, or how does this work?
That's biofuel.
Okay.
So the trend in auto manufacturing these days is not just to make just one system, it's to make it biofuel. So if you run out of one particular fuel,
you can always switch to the other one.
Yes, that is true.
Okay.
That is true.
Right. So now let's look at.
And that's another advantage, added value. Right. And even if it allows you to take, definitely you go for the cheaper option.
Most definitely. And so the other part will just be like a reserve in case the other one has issues. But George, let's quickly go back to this particular presidential, which of course, I know you mentioned it earlier on, but part of what we're looking at is of targeting 11,500 new CNG-enabled vehicles and 55,000 CNG conversion kits for PMS-dependent vehicles. Can you please explain what we mean by conversion kits for PMS-dependent vehicles?
Okay. Now, a lot of the, if not, let me use the word, most of the public transport vehicles we have, most of the vehicles we have on our roads, either for private use also, are PMS fuel. Now, apart from bringing in those already made CNG vehicles, other people too, maybe the 8 million to 12 million vehicles on Nigeria roads would also be interested in conversion. But at the first part of it, government is introducing conversion for at least 55,000 public transport related vehicles that are currently on PMS to provide this kit to them. That is the conversion kit.
Okay.
So the technology is now available so that if I'm currently on petrol, which is using injection fuel, I can now have something attached to it that will also allow the compressed gas to come out. So those are conversion kits.
Right.
It's a set of small pieces of equipment that will be put together.
So they work like
plugins. Perfect
probably.
way to describe it, like plugins.
Okay.
You know those kind of things you put on your gas when you want to change. You know your gas system now comes with electric. Comes with electric and gas. So if your gas got low in the house,
you can
just
change it and then use the electric. So if
by the time you want to come back to gas, you see those knobs on top of the cylinder and the one at the back of the gas cooker. Those are those kind of, but these ones are much more definitive for CNG. But because the gas in the CNG comes as compressed natural gas, so it's going to be depressurized as it enters your vehicle. So it's a complete set of equipment which government is going to invest in, bring in for at least 55,000. And already, like you mentioned, people are already bringing this thing in. So by the end of the day, it's not going to be 55,000, but that's what government is going to use to stimulate that sector. And that will also assist in bringing down the cost of those kind of a conversion by people who are already doing it. And people are mentioning all sorts of amount. By the time the government intervention comes in, the price, forces of demand and supply will also bring the price downwards. Then you now see local production of those components too. Nigerians are very smart.
I know. I'm sure they can't wait to start trying their hands on some of those things.
It will bring me to perhaps my own final question this morning, and to the way we see things in Nigeria, especially when government has very fantastic initiative on the table and have very brilliant minds like you explain some of the intricate details and the advantages to Nigerians. However, how long does it take before we experience this? Do we have to experience the benefit? And how long who Nigerians are you talking about here? Are you talking like someone like Bimbo that can easily access some of these things, or my grandma who has no idea what I say? And that's the thing, like, or when you are in a public vehicle and you hear them talk about, want to be conduit the moile to one so only PNG or LNPG and a PEP. What are political party continue? Gas. So how realistic are some of these things in today's Nigeria?
Okay. You'll be surprised. You know, in any new technology, any new products, you have what you call the adoption stages.
Yes.
So you have the early adopters, you have the laggards.
Yes.
So the laggards in this case will be the rich people. They don't want to touch it. But the early adopters will be the common people. The people who are mostly impacted by the impact of the fuel subsidy removal are going to be the early adopters. Go and see the guys we are seeing on all the social media that have compacted their better pass my neighbor generators. They are the ordinary people. Then when you now get to the public transport landscape, those will be early adopters. Now, yeah, it is true that people will be pessimistic, but the fact that if something is going to impact on
Your
my pockets.
pockets.
It's going to impact on my out-of-pocket expenses. It's going to impact on the livelihood of my family. You'll see people who are the more so the government is backing it. So it's not just you just throw something out. The government is putting its weight. Over 100 billion will be expended. Boom, into the public transport sector. Boom, that's going to have a lot of impact. That's at the level of the federal government, not to talk of what the states governments are. The Lagos State government, I understand some of the those blue buses government owned bus public transport buses are already on CNG. Yeah, a company that not even before now. There are a lot of the buses that I spoke to some people in the auto industry. Oh, just last week, another plant was commissioned that is going to be producing. Sin is already doing it. I understand Vaughan in Lagos here, in Ojo, just by last week. I spoke to one of their directors. He told me they're already into it. Then I spoke to another one. They're already bringing in about 200 CNG.
So they are also
so people are already adopting these stage. So what is more important is for us to know that it is not just a one-off attempt. Like I said, it's an immediate to long-term approach, and it is going to be the public sector. The private sector will adopt it, and they will turn it to the way and means by which public transport will be propelled. And going from the successes that will come out of this, you will see other sectors. See, all those are better past by neighbor. Nigeria will start converting them to CNG, LPG, and before you know it, the consumption of PMS will reduce. Then we can now focus on the gains of the crude oil prices and stuff. And also, these products are, the gas coming here will be byproduct of either crude production or natural gas extraction. So it's a new value chain, is a new win-win for both government, for people. Then the fact that it is clean, it is when you say clean energy, that is, it does not pollute, it does not, then you're going to have an increase in the quality of life. And this is what those of us in the transportation sector have been hoping for and praying for, because even in the worldwide greenhouse gas emission, apart from that is coming from home use, you have farm use, dunks produce methane. The next is the transportation sector, contributing about 21% of greenhouse gas effect. By the time you bring it into this system, we breathe well, we live well, and we take advantage of lower price. And believe me, government is backing this to kick off. And the way the thing is structured, because I have had time to go through it, is going to allow the private sector to drive that initiative. So what government will be doing is bringing in all the enabling environment, encouraging its use, making sure gas is available, making sure the skids and all the compression units
and allow the private sector to take charge. All right, we'll probably need to leave this conversation here this morning. Hopefully, maybe in another few months, we'll probably have you come back, and maybe by then we'll have more success story to lay credence to as we take a review of the CNG initiative. Thank you so much, Dr. Kayode Opeifa, for coming on the program today.